Come back. Listen, as we are heading into December, one of the biggest topics that we don't talk about enough that needs to get addressed is closing out the year with your end of year IT housekeeping. What does that even look like? This is the time when companies should be tightening up their systems, cleaning up their data, reviewing security, and preparing technology for the upcoming year. But the truth is, a lot can go wrong when you are rolling into the new year with an untidy digital environment. So, to help us break it all down, we are speaking to Scoffield Thomas, the managing director of 800 Tech, and he is going to be diving in deep on what end of year housekeeping looks like. Because let me tell you something, you might be taking a vacation. You might be at the dinner table with the family eating your Christmas bread and your ham, and everything is good. But you know who's not eating Christmas ham and bread? The hackers, the people who are the bad actors that are in the field that are looking at these types of opportunities to take advantage of people, who, again, it's more of a relaxed environment these times, and again, perfect environment for things to go wrong. So, Schofield, how are you doing? Long time no talk.
How
I
are you
mean, we've
going,
been talking
Karen?
to Junior.
Yes.
How you been? How you been? What's going on, man?
I'm good. I'm good. I know Junior's a rock star on this show, but I mean, I have to make a debut.
No, that's good, man. That's good. Now,
Yeah.
listen, this topic is, again, I know it's something that we don't often talk about, but I
Yeah.
mean, when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense why there should be, end of year IT housekeeping. And I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
things can happen during the times when we are out celebrating and relaxing with family. We know that the rest of the
Correct.
world is not, doing
Correct.
that. So when you talk about end of year IT housekeeping, what does that actually look like for the typical business owner? What are some of the things that they should be
Yeah.
looking at?
So let me just set the context for this. Typically, as
Yes.
you said, this time of year, um, people are more relaxed. People are looking forward to the vacation. If you have leave inside, people are looking to take that leave. Christmas parties, end of year parties. So everybody's in a festive type of mood, and we tend to drop our guard a bit. And apart from that, IT staff, because we've been doing so much for the year, we tend to want to slow down a bit to kind of coast into the last 30 days or last 24 days of the year before we wrap up. But it leaves a lot of gaps for, bad threat actors to actually, run their schemes. And this is a time when we see a lot of phishing happening because you're not really paying attention because you just want to wrap up to go get something done for Christmas party or your kids having something at school. So you're not really paying attention. But we want to refocus that a bit and this is not just for IT professionals, but it's also for business owners to be aware that these are some of the things that you may need to do. Go and start talking with your IT professionals at your organization. And you can utilize these pointers, jot them down if you like, and have a conversation with them. You may realize that they're already doing it, but just so that you're aware that what should be done and have these things into practice. So, I mean, the first thing you should do is audit your user list. Go through those lists of users, those who came in, those who left. Make sure that the people that you have listed on your accounts, they're actually valid. They are valid users, not somebody who left 2 years ago, 2 months ago. Make sure those are, authentic users. Then people who are on vacation, and this is something that we see a lot. When people go on vacation, we don't disable their accounts. We leave their accounts active. And that in itself is a risk. Because when you leave the account active, then nobody's really paying attention to that account as much. That person may not be looking at emails. They may have account compromised via email, and nobody really knows because they're on vacation. They're somewhere having a nice time, getting the ham, getting the gifts. Black Friday sales going on. They're probably in that. They have no time to be looking at what's happening. They may see a pop-up for two-factor authentication. They might just click it, just want to get things out of the way because they're in a festive mood and they're in a celebration mood. So they're not really thinking as they should. So that's one of the areas that, we see with user accounts. We need to clean that up make sure that you have those things in a gear. Then we have the other item with uh, files, company files. We see companies roll over with 10, 15, 20 years of files active, running year on year, increasing your backup size unnecessarily, increasing your storage space unnecessarily, where these are things that you may be able to archive. So this one may not just be an IT function, but this is in collaboration with the different department heads or your manager or your MD. Sit with them, say, hey, do we need these files from 1999 to keep rolling forward? Can we archive some of these files? So you archive some of these files, put them offline in secure storage, uh, ensure that the files that you're moving forward with are just the necessary files that you need so that you keep your servers limber, you keep your backup set tight because we know cloud storage is pretty expensive now. So you make sure that you keep your shop as lean and as functional as possible. So you look at that, you audit your users, you look at your archive data, you archive what you need to archive. Also, while you're doing that, it's a good opportunity to look at your permissions. Make sure that you have least privilege access enabled. So not somebody who's in sales and they have access to things in compliance. There's no need for that. So it may be a nice opportunity. And again, it's going to be a difficult time to do it because everybody's festive, but it makes sense to do it at this point in time.
Curtis, before you come in, I want to jump in with two things. There are some things you said, Schofield, that are very important, right? The one about the auditing the users that have access to the account, I think is huge because there are clients that I've worked with 2, 3, 4 years ago that haven't removed me from their platforms, and I'm still users. I'm still a user on some of these things. So we know that there is a breakdown somewhere with the IT department auditing who has access to their servers, and that's something that if you were auditing at the end of every year, you would have said, "Oh, Karen Rose is still a user, still has admin privileges. Well, we're no longer working with him, so let's go ahead and remove this." Right? That is critical. Yeah. And the question I want to ask for you, because this is something that I think over the past couple of weeks I've been seeing a lot more of, and I think it's become a lot more accessible, but I want your take on it. You mentioned cloud storage, managing that. Cost of cloud storage is getting more expensive. I think for the first time, I'm with Microsoft OneDrive, and it's now asking me to bump up to the next tier. And I'm just like, yo, I don't even want to spend this money. But what has been coming up over the past couple of weeks is the new network. What is it? It's called NAS storage, network access storage.
Attached storage.
Network attached storage. Yes, and I've been seeing a lot more companies coming up with solutions that are right for the consumer market. So now I'm looking at one of my first purchases in January or maybe even the Black Friday sales is now purchasing from Ugreen and getting one of their NAS systems and now creating my own cloud storage, and it's going to save me money. From a security aspect, do you think we're at this point now where maybe we should kind of go away from the cloud storage? Like when you think about, the access to cloud storage, the speed to cloud storage, do you think NAS is now the new thing that companies should start looking at, especially on the smaller scale? Like if you are if you are on the smaller side of the business, and again, cloud storage is not getting cheaper; it's getting more expensive, and the files that we're working with are getting a lot bigger. So it's the speed and access is going to be. What's your take on that?
All right, so I know this is going to be compelling because of cost, because you're going to have a lower cost of ownership in terms of your data, but there are a lot of other factors that we have to look at. One, maybe you don't have the infrastructure to support securing your own personal NAS storage, which would be something like your own personal cloud account or cloud storage with your infrastructure. So if you don't have the right professionals, the right tools to secure and manage that properly, it's going to become a problem for you. Because now you don't have all the levels of protection that you should have, and it's just you with a lower storage point that's vulnerable as hell. that anybody now could access your data quite easily. If you want to do that, I would rather you do that on an offline basis because I would say put your archive stuff there instead and keep it
Mhm.
offline because your production data in a cloud NAS storage, that's your private cloud, would be a little tricky if you don't have the right infrastructure and the tools and people to help you to manage that because who's going to be looking at it? You're
Mhm.
just looking at cost, and that's something we want to get business owners away from, not just looking at the cost factor, but look at the other side of this equation. There's risk involved. There's more risk and possible cost for you, by
Mhm.
implementing something that you cannot manage properly online. And
Mhm.
to your point, what you've experienced where companies would not take you off of their user list for months, years, that is like really commonplace sometimes in Trinidad because we've come across that a lot. That 2, 3 years, a user is still on and active, and you wonder what's going on here. They still have full access rights. Thank God that they are not bad threat actors, so you're safe there, but it is a huge risk that we're not looking at. And the sad part about it is business owners may never know that this is actually
Mhm.
happening because unless you audit and have an independent audit going on, you would not know that there are user accounts active from users who left 5, 6 years ago. You would not know that.
That's crazy.
All right. So that's why, I keep advocating for business owners to be involved. Not just say, okay, that's technology. I don't understand not going on there. No. Get involved, ask questions. If you think it's stupid questions, still ask it. Ask. It may actually prompt your IT guy or your IT professional to say, oh, you know what, I need to fix this.
I think.
Just ask. No matter how simple or how stupid you think it is, get involved, ask questions. Hey, Jane who left last week, what did we do with her data? Ask. And you suddenly realize Jane's data is just there, with Jane
Mhm.
having access to that data still. So those little simple things, we need to, be mindful of.
Wow. Now, Karen, this one hits home for me because, of course, I run an organization and I work with contracted persons who are contracted to teach and whatnot. And we shared everything is on the cloud. All of our materials are on the cloud and on and on and on. And if I think back, I know for sure that these folks who would have moved on, ex-employees,
Mm.
contractors, whatnot, they have access. They still have access to the email address and all these things.
Oh,
So
my
it's not
God.
beyond that, they also have access
Yeah.
to social medias. So person that we might have hired on Fiverr and all of these different things all over the world. And that's such a risk. We hired them and then they got the job done, they did the social media management, etc. And you never went and clean up. So that audit is something that hit fall in my garden. I say, ouch. You know what I mean? Just as we would clean up shop in terms of your stock and you do your inventory, I think it's so important that we also pay close attention to who has access to our.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow, big one there.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what you just highlighted is it's really commonplace, especially when we have all these influencers helping us promote our businesses and
Yeah.
we give them access to be able to post on our behalf. But then the relationship either goes sour or we move on or we transition away from that person or business and we don't revoke access. We
Yeah.
just give
Still
somebody
going.
else access.
Yeah.
So these are the kind of things that we see, and we try to educate business owners and IT professionals that hey, these things you need to tighten up and look at.
Yeah. Because you
And
just
what
don't
goes
know.
along,
Yeah.
yeah, and what goes along with that is the in terms of cloud storage, the more users you have that are active on your cloud accounts, 365 Google, that's more cost because each user
That's
represents
cost.
a license,
License. Yeah.
right? And depend on what services you have tied to those users, you have running costs for somebody who's not even there. So if you have 20 or 10 employees that left and you just keep running that course year on year, and they have 365 full suite, they have Teams, they have Teams phone, they have different applications within the ecosystem, you're just running up a bill. And we know how Forex is in Trinidad, for no reason. So that's why we really look at clamping down on those things. So it's not just about from that perspective, cybersecurity only, but there's a cost factor, which I know they love to hear. The cost factor of cost savings, from removing these users,
Right.
so that, keep your account lean.
And that's something that's very simple that it often gets overlooked by businesses around the country. And again, as you said, everything is a cost associated with that. So for the
Yeah.
business owners that are listening to the conversation and they're thinking about, okay, well, yeah, maybe we do gotta go and clean up, get our house in order when it comes to our IT infrastructure. Where do we begin? Where do we start? What are the starting points for people?
All right. So the first point I would say is have a conversation with your IT professional. If you don't have an IT professional and you just want to get a baseline of where you are, probably, if you have an internal audit team, do an internal audit on your IT infrastructure. And that will give you a nice little blueprint in terms of like what's going on, what's wrong. And that will then enable you to know, okay, listen, based on what I'm seeing here, I would need some assistance with this. So I would need a specialist to help me to either clean up. And here's the thing that I want to put out there. Now, even though you may have that in your environment, it doesn't mean necessarily that your IT professional is bad, or he's careless. He may just be overworked,
Hmm.
or just too many things coming. Because I mean, these are things that we see. He may be overworked, too many things coming at him at once. He may be a single person running a shop with 50, 60, 70 users. That is difficult in this time. I know they think it's just, you're fixing computers, but it's more than that now. So he may need a little help. So when you get your audit and you get your audit report, you look at it, you summarize what needs to be cleaned up, what are your action items, and you sit together with him collectively, and you probably bring on an outsourced IT firm, and you all decide, okay, how are you going to clean these things up, this list? And you give timelines, how are we going to achieve this? What timeline are we looking for? The things with the audit, with the user list, sorry, that's low-hanging fruit. I think that could be done like in quick stride. We can get that done. But the other items, make sure and get them cleaned up by latest first quarter of 2026. So that's the process. You do an audit, you assess if your in-house IT, whatever is a single person or a department, they're capable of handling what's required to remedy the situation, and you get the help that they need or the tools that they need in place to help them to, not just fix this, but ensure that it's not a recurring issue that you have in 2026 at the end. You come back and you're having the same problem again. So if you're having that same problem in 2026, then you have a problem that you need to address seriously. All right. Another item that we need to look at is inventory.
Mm.
All right. Inventory of your equipment. We've seen way too many times business owners, they're supposed to have 80 systems and they can't account for a number of them. Where are they?
Where are they?
Where are they? They're joined to the domain. They have access to the domain, but you don't know who have these equipment, who own these equipment. That is really common also. And especially in the SME sector, because of course, again, we're all rushing and we're trying to just get the job done.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
buy laptops, we buy desktops, we deploy, we join up the domain, we give them out. But then if nobody's managing those assets, they sometimes tend to get legs, or you don't know if who have these devices, So a simple exercise that we normally would do with clients is something called asset tagging, where we tag every piece of asset that the client owns and we manage them in our system. So we make sure that we see them in the list, we have them via reference of asset tag and serial number, so we can account for it, and each asset is tied to a user. So we have a list of all users with all assets that you own from the company. So if at any point in time you leave the organization, we know exactly what you need to hand back in, not guessing or going to look through a filing cabinet for paper now to see, okay, what did we give them in 2020 again? No, it's digital. We can just pull it up, see exactly what assets you have, and make sure that you return those assets safely to the company. All right, so that's an area that, yeah.
And that brings up another question that I have is, how should companies be treating with old hardware and devices? Think laptops, phones, external drives. So they're not sitting around with sensitive data on it. What is the process, or what company should be thinking of with regards to that?
Right. So in that scenario, when we do the whole asset tagging exercise, we then highlight what is obsolete, what is just not workable anymore. And we would normally recommend that you do proper disposal. There are companies that do that in Trinidad and Tobago. They dispose of IT assets and they give you a certificate thereafter. But again, there's a small cost.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always a process of educating the businesses that, listen, yes, there's a small cost to doing this, but imagine just taking this laptop and dumping it. It ends up in landfill. Somebody gets it who know what they're doing, and they take your data, extract your data, and then your data is for sale, or they utilize your data for some other activity. When we bring it across like that, and they realize, okay, even if you wipe it once, people can still get your data. So you have to know what you're doing. So this company or these companies would actually scrub your devices, give you a certificate that says, okay, this properly disposed of and wiped and erased. So it gives you comfort that, okay, your data has been erased properly, industry standard, and it has been disposed of properly, not just dumped in a landfill.
Schofield, can you quickly just break down, because there's people that are listening who don't understand what that scrub actually means. Because, like, let's for example, if you have never wiped your own computer before, right? Every computer typically is going to ask you, what type of scrubbing are we doing? Are we doing a little light clean because we just want to erase the data, but this is going to be your device afterwards, where the data, if need be, could be recovered? And then you have the option where it asks you literally on Mac and Windows, where it's like, is this device going to somebody else? Because then we're doing a
Yeah.
different type of wipe. So can you just kind of
Yeah.
explain, what are the different levels of data wiping that happens on these systems for those that
Yeah.
might
So,
not understand?
so there's a quick format. So you do a quick format in a system, which would just, basically just make the information unreachable to the naked eye, or to the user, to a natural user. But there's also the deep format or low level format, which takes a lot more time, but it writes over the blocks a couple times, so that your data, not like it can be retrieved, but it's more difficult to be retrieved, because a lot of people don't understand that even if you just do a quick format and you hand that system to somebody, there are tools online that are free that you can just download that would reveal all that data that has been on that drive quite easily.
That's crazy.
So if you don't do that low level deep format, that data is like really easily accessible by somebody, with a free tool. And that's this crazy sad part about this world. With a free tool, you can pull that data back quite easily. But that's why we insist on, disposal company, because they have a proper process they follow, industry standard, that they ensure that your data is not retrievable, and they give you that certificate of comfort to let you know that, hey, this has been done to industry standard. And they're locally in Trinidad and Tobago. I think there are 2 or 3 of them that you can access and utilize.
Nice.
So
No.
so hold on. Let me just throw something in there, Curtis. So
Mhm.
so basically, for the companies that have all of their equipment, right? Who maybe they're selling it for whatever the reason, they're upgrading their equipment, so they're gonna sell their stuff. If they are selling their equipment to other people, if they are not doing the low level wipes, or going to the companies that you had mentioned for the deep level scrubs, you could effectively be giving away your trade secrets, because you're going to
Correct.
sell your system doing a quick wipe, and let's just say, for some reason you've sold it to a threat actor who has now
Mhm.
used a free tool and pulled back up your data, and now we know that the
Correct.
11 herbs and spices to KFC, all because all because
Yes.
you
Bad
didn't do the
housekeeping.
deep cleaning. That is insane. Because
Yeah.
I've never thought about that until
I'll
you
give you
kind of just
something.
laid it out.
I'll give you something better. So, some company, with the bigger companies, they lease printers. And when these printers go off lease, they just return it to the company, and they take a newer model. But do you know that these printers all have hard drives in them? That's how they're able to store the data. So all your prints are stored on that hard drive and that lease printer. But a
What?
lot of companies, they don't request that they wipe it. So that's something that, was blowing my mind because you just give away, well, I say give away, but you give back a lease printer. But the hard drive contains a lot of your prints. I'm not sure what's quantity of prints, but depending on the size of the hard drive, you could have months of prints still there on that printer. So you have to scrub that drive on that printer also. And that's something that people don't realize. That the
Didn't even know that
printer
was a
in
thing.
itself, it's like a little computer, but its main function is to print. So it stores, so how do you, when you send your print and you put in your code, that's how it retrieves the information because it's stored on the printer itself, right? And then sends the prints out to you, right? So that's an area that a lot of people overlook.
That's a
Printers,
big one. That's a big one.
yes,
My
they
mind is
overlook
blown.
that area,
Wow.
because you have to be careful, with your data at all points.
No, they think the reality is we print very important things. We're printing contracts.
Correct.
We're printing non-disclosure agreements. We are
Mhm.
this
And you're scanning too.
I mean scanning. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness, that's a huge gap. Now my question is, you've been doing this for a long time. You've been doing
Yeah.
this, you've been working in this particular field for over 2 decades. Now,
Yeah.
can you share some real world examples of persons that you might have worked with? And not don't call too much a name, don't deal with the names part,
Yeah.
but give us the situations maybe where IT housekeeping they skipped over that, like me. We skipped over that and now they're paying a heavy price. Yeah, let us know. I
Well,
worried.
yeah. So we've had a couple of companies, and unfortunately, that pay the heavy price with ransomware. Right?
Mm,
We've had that, we've seen that, and they were warned previously, but it was too much for them to invest in the right tools. It was too
right.
much for them to probably change practices and procedures. Or probably they didn't see the need for it at that time because we're thinking that, okay, we're not that important. We're just doing X, Y, so we don't need to, focus on those areas. And they were hit with ransomware, account takeovers. We've had that with business clients before. More recently, we've had companies where we have rogue IT. The IT is just functioning as their own independent body, doing whatever it is they want to do in the company. And the executive team have no idea what's going on. So when we come on board and we start to ask questions, they don't even know that these things were going on in the back end, right?
Mm,
And I can't go into more specifics because I don't want to give too much details out, but we have to be careful and not just leave IT function just to IT professionals. Ask questions because IT and business are intertwined right now. No getting away from that.
Yeah.
Sit with your IT professionals, ask questions. How can we help you? What do you need? Because when there's a ransomware incident, I've heard where they come and say, "Hey, what you need?" And right now they're ready to sign any invoice, any check, to give you whatever you need at that point in time. Where was that enthusiasm before? And you got to prevent the embarrassment, the brand damage, all of those things. So right now, there may be simple things that your IT professionals need or your IT shop need. Maybe just a tool like EDR, something to monitor, hell, even an additional resource, to help them to just do their jobs better. But we look at cost in the here and now, and I understand it because I'm a business owner myself. I understand the recurring cost, the operational cost. I understand that. But look at the other side of the coin. When something happens to your business, you actually pay a hell of a lot more.
mm,
In just doing ads to counter what is being placed out there alone is gonna, be a lot for your business.
yeah, yeah.
Much less to recover that data.
Wow.
Very, very valid points. Now, we
Good stuff.
know the conversation is around end of year housekeeping, right? So, when it comes to the cyber attacks that spiked during the holiday season, are there any specific security measures that businesses should be taking a look at as they head into the Christmas season, where they know, everybody in the company is going to be kind of, not as attentive, so an email might come in and somebody, while drinking a little punch occur, might click on a link they might not have clicked on. You know what I mean? During the festivities, what are some of the security checks that people need to be aware of as we are heading into the holiday season?
So the big one is business email compromise. Big, because
Mm.
that's and most people's phones, they just look at it quick and like, oh, that looked like Sally asked me for approval. You click on approve. That is the biggest one. So that's why for us, every end of year, we do phishing simulations with clients, to just keep you on your toes because they know the employees know that we're going to be doing the phishing simulations. They don't want to get their name on that list that goes in front of the executive or the board saying, hey, this person failed the phishing simulation. So we do that every end of year, November, December, big. We do that a lot. Phishing simulations for business email compromise to see if the training that you've been given throughout the year that you're applying it, because now is the time you need to apply that. So we do those simulations, and in some cases, some people, yes, because they're on vacation, they see something coming in, they just click on it, and it could have been a possible compromise, and of course they're reprimanded. But in the most part, it keeps employees on their toes because you have to cross-check because you want to make sure that, hey, I'm not caught in this phishing simulation and end up, on that list that goes in front of the executive, showing that, hey, I could have taken down the organization with this silly little mistake,
Hmm.
right? And it's easy to make. We rush in for TVs and courts and Price Smart and wherever else.
Of course.
You see somebody asking for approval to go ahead with a purchase, it looks like the person. You don't take time to look at the header message header and you just click. But once you've done the training, you know exactly what to look for. You pause, you take your 60 to 120 seconds, you look at it, and you can determine, okay, this is valid or not. And if you're not sure, we know the secondary method is to physically call that person.
Uh,
Hey,
And Schofield, to your point, right, with this being with business email compromise being one of the biggest things, um, I'll just share a quick example before Curtis comes in. My business email has been getting spam, and not even spam. It's been phishing. I'm getting a lot of phishing emails, but it's phishing emails from companies like Netflix, like Apple for applications, because I have subscriptions to Apple's, whatever the case is. And here's the thing: I know it's all fraud or it's all phishing because they're not emailing my correct email that I have on file for Netflix
Yeah.
or I have on file for. So, but the point is that the phishing emails are coming in hot and sweaty to my business email, and it's coming in not even in the form of business emails. It's coming in the form of Netflix. Hey, you haven't paid your subscription, click on the link right now to renew. Or an Apple email coming in telling me, hey, you need to go and pay for this application, whatever the case is. And it's coming from things that are trusted like Netflix and Apple. But
Samsung.
again,
Oh,
from Samsung or whatnot. But I already know it's phishing because they're not emailing the right email that I have on file. But again, it's coming to my business email. So if I am somebody where I was working for an organization and I'm at the office line and I get ready to go home and I see Netflix message me, hey, you gotta click this link to resubscribe to your Netflix or whatever the case is, and you're thinking to yourself, well, I know I need to go home and watch some Netflix, and you just go and click on that link and not realize it was phishing. You put your entire organization, at problems.
So let me just answer that in a short form. So that's why in company policy that we have is that you should never, under any circumstances, utilize company emails for anything like that other than company business. So Netflix, Samsung, Apple, no. Your email, your company email should not be used to register for any of those services. So from the time you see that coming into your company account, you know that it is a phishing attempt.
Immediately. Yeah.
Immediately. There's no need to go any further because you're not supposed to be doing that and you didn't do it. So you don't even have to look at that. You just delete. So that's one area that you can protect yourself a bit. But some companies that we take over, we see that they allow their employees to do that, and
That's
they register.
crazy.
And then when we do the dark web idea, we look and see what's happening. Sometimes the accounts are compromised through third parties. A lot of times it's through third parties, especially dating apps. And I'm like, my God, why are you using your company account on a dating app?
No, Schofield. Schofield,
Yeah.
no. No, Schofield.
I
No
mean,
way,
why would
man.
you do that?
You
So
know what I'm
you
thinking?
actually, but
I'm thinking prestige. What I'm thinking prestige. Whatever. Because why else would you use your work email for dating apps
yeah,
other
it
than
could
to
be.
show that could be
Yeah,
the
where I'm
only.
working,
That's
yes.
crazy. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. But again, that's how you compromise your organizations. Those simple selfish acts, that you on board. You'll compromise your entire company by doing that. And that's how when they get breached, your data is leaked and then using that same password multiple places, including your work email account. Right? So that is something that we need to tighten up and ensure that, work email is only for work, nothing else, not registered at any other social sites or nothing other than work.
Nice. No, I'm starting to see cybersecurity as like personal health. Like you're not waiting until something happens to you physically, or that something that you get a heart attack or something before you actually look to go and do the proper runs or look to lose the weight or whatever the case is. We don't really see it down the road. We eat junk food all the time, and then up
Correct.
the road we spend thousands of dollars in hospital bills and medication, and we're living in a problem that we could have prevented long ago. That's how I'm starting to see cybersecurity. It's not something that was at the front of my mind, and I'm sure that would have been anybody that's listening now. We don't wake up in the morning and think about cybersecurity until that there is a real problem. Now, I know you've also, and this is my last question. I know you've been working with a lot of companies that might have been in that space, but then they made the switch and made it important. Could you give us some examples of how maybe some persons might have reduced costs or improved their customer experience just because they would have done the proper back end work to prepare themselves and be cybersecurity ready?
All right. So I could share with you how customers are gaining more business by being cyber ready. Because just like what you gave there, that analogy you gave, it's very much like that. You're spot on. We don't want to eat the fruits and vegetables now because it's
Mm,
expensive.
right.
It's quicker and easier to pick up junk food somewhere else, not exercise and everything. But God forbid you get diagnosis that your health is compromised immediately.
All of a sudden, we
You
have
could
the
find
news
you could find the market,
yeah,
you could find the
anytime.
vegetable lane,
Yeah.
and you can find the fruits aisle, and
Yeah.
you could eat those things and exercise, find time to exercise and
All
everything
of a
else,
sudden. Yeah.
right? And it's the same thing that applies in cybersecurity for your business. Don't wait to get to that point. So now what we're seeing in Trinidad and Tobago, with the clients that we have, a lot of them, before they get a contract with a client, whether it's regional or local, there is a form that would come. What is your cybersecurity posture like? Tell me about your posture. What are you doing? If this happens, what do you do? What do you have in place? What framework are you following? Those things come, and if you don't have a plan in place for that, or you're not doing anything in that space, more likely than not, they're not going to be doing business with you. So we have clients that is part of their daily function now.
Oh,
They have requests from vendors, they have requests from potential clients for this cybersecurity questionnaire. And if they can't fill it out, or if it's insufficient, they're not going to get the business. So we've seen clients gain business, additional business because of their posture in cybersecurity.
wow.
And that makes a lot of sense because cybersecurity is a team effort.
Yeah. And
Everybody
third-party
we
compromise is real.
and third party compromise is real, and your security is only as good as the people that you're partnering with. So we've
That's correct.
seen very high level cases where uh in the case of Target got compromised a couple years ago because they came into the HVAC company. and compromise target, right?
Exactly.
So you are only as strong as the people that you are working with. So that makes a lot of sense. Now, Schofield, I know time always flies when we're having
Yes.
fun. I'll let you have the final word. What is your final remarks for Trinidad and Tobago going into the holiday season and the end of year IT checklist and housekeeping?
So my final remark is ensure and test your backup and your recovery strategy. Ensure that you test it, make sure that it actually works, because a backup that is not recoverable is not a backup. All right. So make sure
Oh
and
boy.
test that and stay vigilant, stay aware. I know it's a festive season, but keep your head in the game, straight to the end. Because once you drop your guard, that's it. It's just like walking in the streets, you don't drop your guard. You keep your guard up and make sure that you end the year safely and start strong in 2026.
Listen, you just said make sure that your backup is actually retrievable, and I felt sick to my stomach because anyhow something happened where we got compromised, and I'm like, well, it's okay, man. I have the backup, and the backup isn't ain't working.
Yeah, think about it. It's like driving your car and you see you get a flat and you feel comfortable. "Oh, I have a spare," and you go, "It's soft."
Yeah, yes, yeah. I would feel sick. I would feel
Yes.
sick. And you know what, Schofield? I'm really glad that we have these conversations on a daily basis because I think every conversation, something is said where you don't even think about it. And it's always the devil is in the details. It's the
Yes.
small little things that compromise us. And I think and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like now going into 2026, the things that can compromise us are getting so much smaller, so much craftier, so much so that they're flippant in the sense that, a Netflix email comes in, hey, pay your Netflix, click on this link, and you're like, oh well, all right, it's Netflix. Let me just click on the link, and before you know it, whole system shutting down, and you have no idea what is going on. It's getting crazier out here, but I don't feel like the attentiveness that we are giving to the IT team is where it needs to be for the power that the threat actors are wielding now.
That is correct.
It's what
That
they
is correct.
can do is insane, and
Yeah.
we are very
Yes,
porous.
You're sending us to war with machetes. That's what
Yeah.
you're doing.
Oh boy. Perfect.
We don't even have a bayonet to protect us. It's
Exactly.
machetes.
Machetes.
Schofield, thank you for taking the time out of your busy
Kara.
day. We know you are a superhero. Not all superheroes wear capes, everybody. Schofield is somebody that is protecting us literally from the world. And you know what, Schofield? I mean, one of these days we gotta have a conversation on getting the new generation into the cybersecurity space and the IT field. What do they need to do? What do they need to learn? Because 2 years ago I was at the OAS Cybersecurity Symposium in Bahamas, and they said for our region we are like 500% understaffed when it comes to the amount of threats that happen in the Caribbean and how many IT professionals, not IT professionals, how many cybersecurity professionals we have to defend against the amount of threats the Caribbean region is having. So, I mean, that's one of these days we'll have that conversation.
We're looking forward to that.
Thank you for
good weekend, guys.
for jumping in, and have yourself a good holiday if we don't speak before the Christmas period. For sure. Then there we go.
Okay, guys.
Take care, Schofield. Curtis,